And am I sharing that screen? I am viewing Andy's screen. Viewing Andy's screen. I think that'll be okay. All right. So we're seeing that up there. Okay. This meeting is being recorded. That's all right. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the blog for today. So VBA course.blogspot.com. And we are on controlling Chrome with VBA. All right. So we've got here a link, going to be notes that we have to follow to get this installed. So let's just go ahead and go through those notes. So what is Selenium? So Selenium is an open source project that just, some people said, you know what, really great if we could remote control various browsers. And so Selenium is a project to do that. It's nothing special about VBA. It's available and can be used from lots of different languages. In fact, chances are if you're using something like Python and you're going to be remote controlling a browser, you'll probably be using Selenium for that as well. So I had a student ask, will this work today, on the Mac? And the answer is what we're doing today. I'm not giving you enough to make this work on the Mac, but Selenium will work on the Mac. So with a little bit of effort, we could figure out how to make this stuff that we're doing today work on the Mac, but that's beyond what we're doing today. So we're going to have to install Selenium, and there's this thing called Selenium Basic, which is essentially someone else said, oh, you know what? The Selenium project is out there. It'd be really great if we could work with Selenium from VBA. So they wrote a wrapper that will go around Selenium that we can invoke its functionality from inside of VBA. So let's start off by installing that. So we're going to download that from GitHub. So GitHub is probably the world's most popular site for sharing code among developers. In fact, every time you download one of the files from the blog here, you're actually downloading that off of GitHub. That's where I host the files that we use for this class. So, so here's Selenium Basic. Looks like our most current one is from March 2016, which is just fine. Been working great for a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and download the executable back here. So yeah, getting the executable, make sure we're following the right steps here. We'll download this. Looks like we got it downloaded, and then we'll go ahead and go through the installation process. So I'm going to just double click that file or click that file. And we're going through this installation process. It's going to install Selenium Basic. That sounds great. I'm going to accept that. I have no idea what it says, but I agree. Now, here is actually saying, which drivers do you want to install? Which ones do you want to support? So we can use Selenium to control Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, yikes, Microsoft Edge, Opera, and looks like we never heard of Phantom.js, but apparently it's a headless browser. Sounds like that should be happening in October sometime, but I'm just going to go ahead and install all of those. That's fine. So they're not large. And we'll click on install. Now, depending on how this machine is configured, it may require me to install something else. So how many of you got? Oh no, I think we'll see that error here in just a second. I'm expecting I will have to install on this machine. So it looks like we got that installed. Okay. Oh shoot, I was supposed to notice something on that, and I forgot to notice it. I wonder if I can do that again, just so we can notice it. I accept. Yeah, so right here, it's telling me where it's going to be installing it. So you can find this pretty easily because it's just C:\users, your username, app data, and so forth. I'm wondering if I can copy that. Oh, I can. Good. So I'm going to copy that path, and in fact, I'm going to cancel now because I've already installed it. I'm going to exit. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to open up a folder at that location. So this is now where it installed Selenium Basic. Okay, so my next step after getting that installed is to download the Chrome web driver. So here's one of the things about Selenium is that you've got to get the right driver for the browser that you're going to try to remote control. And this needs to be kept up to date. So as soon as you get a new update to Chrome, you'll have to go and your code will quit working until you get the driver that is paired with that newest update. So in fact, if some of you may have a Chrome that's not quite up to date, and so there will be a mismatch between downloading the latest one and the one you have. So we might have to end up like updating your Chrome to get this to work. So, but let's go ahead and do this. So we are following this link here to get to this Chrome driver. And so here's the Chrome driver, all versions available. I want the latest stable release right here. So that's Chrome driver, wow, 112.0 point whatever. I'm going to download that, and that is going to, or I'm going to follow that link, and it's going to say, all right, what operating system do you want to download this for? So we've got Linux, Mac ARM, that would be for like Mac M1, I think. And then here's the only version that's for Windows. I don't know why it's 32 bits instead of 64 bits, but that's the one I'm after. It's a zip file. I'll go ahead and follow that link and open up this zip file. Now, what I am trying to do, this has this Chrome driver file in it here. I just need to replace my existing Chrome driver. So over here is my Selenium Basic. Here's where I'm installed, Selenium Basic. And I've got here a Chrome driver built into it from 2016. That is way out of date. But here's the current one. So I'm just going to, from this extracted folder, I'm going to bring over and drop Chrome driver here. And that should prompt me to replace it. Maybe I have to drop it on the white space. There we go. So I'm not dropping it on the file, I'm dropping it on the white space. Replace the file in the destination. Yes, replace that file. So now my Chrome driver is from today. So we installed Selenium Basic. We've gotten the most recent version of the Chrome driver. Let's see if we are all coming along. Is there anyone who's saying, I need some help? Either raise your hand if you need a little time to get here, and then separately raise your hand if you need some help to get there, and I'll come and give a hand.
I understand. So just drag this one into here. It should replace it.
Yep, just drag it right down to the white space. Yep. Anyone else?
I can't find the data folder. Like it says, it downloaded this user data.
So this student was saying, I can't find app data. App data is a hidden folder by default. So if you're looking for it, you won't find it. But if you paste that path in, you can go to it. Yeah.
Nice. I searched for it again. It was loading, but it said that there were no searches found. I guess it's loading again. But is there any?
Yeah, just click there. You don't have it on your clipboard, you can actually click on that header and you could type in /app data. You can type it in as well. But anyone else? Oh, we're down here in front. Are you using Mac or are you running Windows here?
Oh, nice.
So that's not going to work for you today. Just gonna have to watch.
Did the test, but it asked me to do this.
Oh yeah, that's coming up next. All right, anyone else? Yeah, just drag it and drop it on the white space. Don't drop it on a file. Okay, so that should be what we need to get in to get it going. And there's going to be a little file over here in scripts. So in my Selenium installation, I've got a folder called scripts. And we've got one here called Start Chrome. This is actually just a VBS file. Now, we've been working in class all semester in VBA, Visual Basic for Applications. This file is, let's open this with, do you have anything to open it with? I'll just open this with Notepad. So to run VBA, you have to have a host application like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Access. There's some others. VBS is like VBA, but just doesn't need a host application. So it just kind of runs from the operating system. So this is just going to try to start up Chrome using the Chrome driver. So I'll click Start Chrome. And it's going to say, oh, if you want to do this, you're going to need to download and install this other feature. So this is the .NET Framework 3.5. This means it's a little bit outdated. The current version of the .NET Framework is something above 3.5. And we probably already have the newer version of the .NET Framework installed here, but they live okay side by side. And so I'm going to go ahead and download and install this feature. And it might take a minute to get that installed. So we'll let that go. If you didn't get this message here, like if you clicked that and it just opened up Chrome, then you are good to go. But if you double clicked that Start Chrome and it says, hey, download and install, you'll have to download and install that. Question?
Yeah, I'm clicking start and it gives me an error message saying the session created. I'm sure it's because the
So it may be that, yeah, so thank you for telling me that because I wasn't quite sure. Sounds like if you're getting a different error and not getting that one, you may just need to update Chrome. Do you know how to update Chrome? I can't remember either. So you should just be able to come to the, and where's the option to update Chrome? Is it? Oh, help and then about Chrome. Help about Chrome. Yep. Yeah, see, we're
right now.
1.1.11 and it was like 1.1.12 that we needed. So
You're right, because I updated the drop. And also the start from is working.
oh, me either. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and just let that work in the background while I start to get my workbook set up. This should be the last part of getting Selenium installed. So I will just let this go and come back to my browser. Okay, so now back to our blog. We've gone through the notes. Well, let me just kind of look through and make sure we have gone through them all. So yeah, so Chrome driver, scripts. We're going to run start Chrome. And then this will be stuff that we do inside of VBA. So let's go ahead and get our files downloaded and set up to run for our examples today. So I'm going to, oh, this is an XLSX file. How unusual. So I'll just go ahead and download this. And nice thing about that is we won't have to go and unblock it because there's no code in it. Enable editing. That looks great. Now, let's look at this other file here that we're going to download. This is parser.cls. Now, was it just last time we were together that we downloaded some .bas files and we imported a couple of different modules that were VBA modules that we had just exported? This one is similar as well, but it's not just a regular module. It's what's called a class module. Now, everything we've been doing, go ahead and get it downloading. Everything that we've been doing so far with VBA is we've used existing objects, but we've never created our own object. And that's beyond the scope of this class. So we're not going to be creating objects here, but you can create new objects with new methods and properties and functionality. You can create those objects, and that's what this is. So this parser class is a class that I wrote. It's an object, definition of an object that I wrote that's has some tools in it that are nice for working with HTML text. So it'll just make our lives a lot easier when we're trying to parse through HTML text instead of having to do it just with like the left function and the mid function and the length function and in string and such. So it's going to abstract that from us. So I've got that downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and come back to my workbook, come into help if I hit Alt F11 instead of Windows F11. Come into my Visual Basic editor. Alt F11. And we're going to import that class file. So I'm going to go ahead and close any ones that we have open here. Okay, so I've got my trucklist.xlsx file here, and I'm going to choose File, Import File. Let me make sure that's the one I'm on trucklist. File, Import File, and then I'm going to go find that CLS file. I'm guessing that's in the downloads folder. Parser.cls, and that is going to give me this code right here. So this is the definition of that object, and we won't be modifying it, but we'll be using this in class today. We go ahead and come here and just get things set up a little bit. Auto syntax check is turned off. I'm going to change the size of our font so that you can see it a bit better and change the font. Microsoft Sans Serif. Oh, here it is, Sans Serif Western. Okay. All right, so we've got now this file set up and ready to work with. I'm going to go ahead and insert a module so that I've got module 1 to be able to write my code. And I'm going to go check on now my Selenium installation. Window feature was installed. That looks great. I might need to restart apps that require this feature. That's all right. Okay, so now that that's installed, I'm going to go ahead and check that script again. Start Chrome. And is this the error that says I need to update the driver? So I'm going to go ahead and update the driver, or update Chrome. Come back to Chrome. I will choose my little more menu here, come to Help, and then About Chrome. Yeah, so it looks like it's version 111, and that driver, if you remember, I think it was version 112. So that should update here. Relaunch Chrome to finish updating. I guess I'll relaunch Chrome. Okay, so now it looks like we're built. I'm going to try that script again, cross my fingers. Okay, Click OK to quit. Looks like it opened Chrome here. And you'll notice it says here at the top of this, Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. So Chrome knows it's being controlled by Selenium. We'll click OK to quit. Now, if I did that and it still didn't open Chrome, I'm not sure what I would do. That's everything I've ever had to go through to get this installed. So if you've done all those steps and it's still not working, come see me. You and me and Google will get together. We'll figure it out. Okay, but now I should have everything I need to be able to remote control Chrome. So let's take a look then at our task for today. So what I've got here is I've got this data. So I've got these various like trucking companies here. Duke Brothers Trucking Limited. There's a trucking company just called Trucking, 2 men and a truck in Birmingham, Alabama. So I have a US Department of Transportation number. So these folks are all registered with the United States Department of Transportation. And I need, for whatever reason, I need to get their phone number. And if they have a fax number, their fax number. Oh, that's great. Who still has a fax? I don't know. Maybe trucking companies still have faxes. And so fortunately, this is all public information. And so it's available, here. Now, but the trouble is, I cannot just go directly to the website that has this information. There's not enough information here for me to, I've got to go and do like a search on this. So this is going to be beyond the capabilities of the web query wizard. The web query wizard has really 3 main limitations. The first one is that I only have access to data that's displayed on the page. If what I'm after is not shown on the page, but is in the underlying HTML, with the web query wizard, I'm just sunk. The second limitation is you have to be able to go directly to the page that you want. So if you have to log in first and then follow a link and then type in some information to a form to get to the data that you're trying to get, the web query wizard isn't going to be able to do it for you. And those are the 2 main ones that I usually talk about, but there's one more that I thought about today that I thought, oh, you know what, that's a limitation too. And if I think of it, I will tell you. I don't remember what it is. But let's go ahead and just kind of take a look at this site for the data that I'm after. So back to Chrome, and I'll plug in that URL. Okay, so here I can come here and select this. I'm going to search. I could search by name, or I could search by the US Department of Transportation number. Which one do you like better? Yeah, I don't know that I might have collisions in a name because, to get a name, who do you register a fictitious name with? Do you know? It's not the federal government. Who issues fictitious names? State governments do. And so, if there's a fictitious name registered in one state and someone else in a different state wants to register that same name, is that going to happen? That's totally going to happen. So I would expect to have name collisions in these names. But this US Department of Transportation number is going to be unique in the database that I'm after. So let me just I'll take Leduc Truck Services Limited. I'll take their number. And I'll come here and search, plug that into US Department of Transportation. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to open up. So we're going to use Selenium to open up Chrome to this page. We're going to click on that box. We're going to plug that value in. We're going to click on search. That's a problem. Oh, you know what? This could be old. This could be old data. Those guys could just no longer be in business. So that's not a valid. Let's see if Duke Brothers are still in business. That looks better. Okay, so Duke Brothers are still operating. Leduc Trucking, whatever, they're gone. Okay, so then once this data comes back, I'm going to follow that link. Let's see if I can get my Zoom controls out of the way. All right, so yeah, this is the page. And so I'm wondering, could I format? Could I actually figure this out so that I could search and come straight to it? I'm not sure. I might be able to. So I mean, point is, I might be able to accomplish this using the web query wizard. But it's only if that number is like all that's needed in that URL to find it, 1450026. And I'm not seeing that number up here, but 1450266. So maybe we could do it. But the whole point is we're going to see how to control the browser across those steps. And then once we get here, we're going to need to pull off the phone number and the fax number and then bring it back over to Excel. So that's what we're going to do. All right, but let's kind of build ourselves up there. Let's start off by making a new sub procedure. Oh, there's one more step that we have to do from our instructions on getting Chrome installed. And so after we've done all of this, we have to add a reference here. So for us to be able to use Selenium, we've got to add a reference to the Selenium type library. So we've got to come and do, after we make a module, oh, they've given us this to start with. Oh, let's go ahead and start with that code. I'll copy that. And then we'll have to add a reference and we'll do that together. And I think that's going to be it. Yeah, that's the end. All right, so I'll paste that code in. So this Google search is going to be just kind of what it takes. Let's just take a look at what it's saying. It's saying we want to dim something called bot, just a variable name, as a web driver. Now that's the thing that if I just try to run this at this point, it's not going to know anything about it. So I don't know what you're talking about web driver. So I'm going to stop my code. I'm going to choose Tools, References. I'm going to go find the Selenium type library. QRS Selenium type library, and make sure that I check the box next to it. Once I get my Selenium type library in here, I should now be able to run this. So let's see what it's going to do. It's going to create an object of that type. So bot is going to be the object that knows all the properties and methods that we need to be able to control Chrome. So that's the kind of object it is. And then we're going to set that variable equal to a new instance of that object. And then we're going to call the start method and we're going to pass it Chrome. So we're going to try to start Chrome. And I'm just going to go ahead and run to that point. So let me come in here and put stop. And I'll run my code to there. And I did not want to get an error there. Okay, so the only thing I'm thinking is that I think I might have opened this workbook before that was all installed. So I'm going to save my work, close this workbook and reopen it. Save that. Probably telling me that it's not, there's macros involved. So continue saving this macro free workbook? No. And we'll change this in downloads to an XLSM. Save as an XLSM. Close Excel, and then I'll close Excel all the way down and reopen it. Hopefully that's the issue. Yeah, so it looks like that's what I needed to do. So we can see now that we've opened up Chrome over here. And let's kind of go ahead and take a look at what's next here. So next thing happening here is we're going to call the get method of our bot. And so it is just saying, hey, I want to go and open this page. So Shift F8. And we're going to watch what happens over here on Selenium when we do that, or over here on Chrome. So it has opened that URL. Now we're saying, listen, we want to find an element by its name. So I don't really want to sign in, no thanks. Okay, so we're looking for like this advanced query. Let's see. As this exact phrase has these words. I think we're looking for this right here. It's one of these two, I'm not sure what it is, but here to kind of look at that, I'm just going to right click this and inspect. So I'm trying to figure out, hey, I want to enter something into this field. Well, I need to find something about it. So in this case, I'm looking for something. I'm trying to find an element on this page by its name. So let's go ahead and inspect this element. And let's see what that has. I'm going to unmount that so we can just zoom in here a bit and take a look at it. So, and often the first time in Chrome when I open that, it doesn't really take me to that element. So I've got that open. I will right click and choose inspect again. And now it's opened that one. Yeah, so we can see this is the tag that's actually generating that text box right here. So it's input tag, it's got this class, which lets me know how it's going to look. It's going to get the focus. That's kind of nice. It has an ID. We can get it by ID, or we can get it by name. In this case, we're going to use the name. So ASQ is the name, AS_Q, and that's what we're telling it. We're saying we want to get a reference to that object. And then once we have that, we're going to send keys to it. And it's just going to be like typing this in from the keyboard. So when I execute this line, it should put Colonial Heritage Festival right there in Chrome. So I'm going to come over here and execute that line with Shift F8. And so it's now plugged that right in here. Now we're going to do this one. Now we're finding an element by its class, not by its name. We come down here to the button. I'm going to right click this and inspect it. And this one doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an ID. I would much rather use the name or the ID because the ID is the best because it's supposed to be unique. No two tags should have the same ID. Name, I can have collisions, although it's unusual to have collisions in the name. Class, I would definitely expect to have collisions in the name of the class. But I think what it's going to do is it's going to find the first one that meets this. And maybe that this is the only button, the only object that has a class of JFK button. I don't know if that's John F. Kennedy or if it's something else. I'm guessing it doesn't stand for the dead president. But we can see that I'm using that class to identify it. And so when I run this line, it should send the click command to that object. So you're going to realize that all of the different components of this page are themselves objects with properties and methods. It's not a VBA object. It's like the document object. It's an HTML document object that we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And hopefully, yeah, you can see that it's clicked that button and it's done this advanced search showing this information about the Colonial Heritage Festival. Okay, how many of you successfully worked that exercise to there? It looks like a number of you. How many of you are trying and not able to get it? Just a couple. Let's just take this. I'm going to come and look and see if there's something quick I can help you with.
Swear, my God, I have in the right place.
Yeah, so that's good. Go ahead and hit play. What happens? Okay, say okay. Stop. Just got to make sure we have the reference. Go tools, references. And then you're looking for the Selenium type library.
I forgot.
Make sure you check the box. There was someone over here. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so that's just the, kind of hello world example. So I think what I'll do, I'll go ahead and run this out. And you're going to notice that when I run this the rest of the way out, my Chrome window over here is going to close, because once the code is done, this object will go out of scope. This variable will be reclaimed by the operating system, and this will then close. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, because this is going to be good groundwork for us. And then we'll call this one trucking search. And let me go ahead and give myself a kind of a runner here as long. Why don't we go ahead and let's pass in the row that we want to work on. So row as a long integer. Got my Acme sub runner here that will let me search by row. I'm just going to call this and send in row number 2 as the first one. I mean, ultimately, what I'm going to want to do is make a loop that loops through this and sends every single row to it to be processed. But let's just work on one here. So we'll pass a 2 there, and that should now get us started. So when we call trucking search and pass it row 2, we're going to do this. We're going to go ahead and create the WebDriver, get it initialized with Chrome here. But instead of going to Google, we're going to go to that page that we saw on the URL that's in column I of our worksheet. Then I think I'm just going to move my stop down to there. And this should get us going, right? So now when I run this, it should open up Chrome, take me to that site, and then stop. And I can start snooping around to find what I need to do to be able to control this particular site. Question here?
Just before and
So yeah, oh, this is a great capital R now. I love it. As long as they're the same, it doesn't really matter. This is our search. This is our trucking sea urch. Sea urch. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and run my subrunner now and see what we get. So far, so good. Fantastic. This looks great. Hey, so my first thing I want to do is I want to click on this guy right here. So I'm going to start off by right-clicking it, inspecting it, and seeing if there's going to be some way that I can track that guy down. I'm going to unmount that, try it again, right-click, inspect. Ah, it has an ID and it has a name. That's wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and use the ID in this one, just so we have an example of seeing it, search by the ID. Okay, so come right here. We'll go above my stop. I'll say bot, and then, oops, what was this? Find element by. So let's see, we've got lots of different ways to find elements here. So find element by, find element by ID, wonderful. I should just be able to plug in that ID. And let's go get the ID that we're after. That ID was called search1. Search1. Now, in the example, in the hello world example that we did, the hello Google example that we did, once we found that, we immediately assumed that we found it. And then we send the keys to it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually get myself a reference that goes directly to that object here. And so I'm going to create a new variable. Come up to my top of my code, and I'm going to dim, I'll just call it elem, E-L-E-M, short for element, as a web element. So once I've got my Selenium type driver, I've got some other types, not just that driver one. So web element, and I'm going to now set elem equal to that. So this is trying to get a reference to the element in the document, and I just want to have direct access to that object. So I'm going to set elem equal to that. And I'll come up here and run my code again. So I just dragged my line back up. I'm going to run that line now. Okay, so here in my immediate window, bring the immediate window up to the top. In my immediate window now, I'm just going to ask for the type name of that. Type name of elem. TYPE name. Tells me it's a web element. That looks good. So it sounds like it actually bound onto it. Otherwise, the type name would be nothing. It would tell me it's not attached to anything. And so ELEM dot. So now I can type ELEM and I can see what can I do with one of these elements, right? And there's one of them there is click. So that looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and after I've got that, I'm just going to say ELEM dot click. Okay, so I'm just going to run that line now. And I've got this one selected, so I'm going to come back and select name so I can see this thing work. I'll run that code. And we can see it does the click. So now I'm ready to plug in the Department of Transportation number. So we're going to want to send, we need to find what this object is. Let's go take a look and inspect this one. All right, so what do we have? We've got a type, got a style. We have a name, DOT, so that'll be good. No ID, so we'll go by name. So I'm probably done with, needing my element to refer to that one. So I think I'll just go ahead and bind my element onto that one as well. So it was a name, DOT, and find element by name. We'll set element equal to that. We go ahead and run that, make sure it works. Looks like it bound onto it just fine. And now we're going to send keys to it. So elem.send keys. Now, what we want to send to it is the Department of Transportation number for the row that we're on. Ooh. So let me go figure out where that is. So that is, this is sheet 1. What is this sheet actually called? Well, we'll go ahead and get a reference to it that way. So let me go ahead and type here a new variable in, well, let's see, it's probably just called sheet 1. That'll be simpler here. Sheet 1 dot cells, row that we want was passed in. So it's our variable that was passed in is the row. So we sent the 2 down here. It'll be captured by this variable. That's the row I'm after. And the column that I want is column E. And I want that value. So I should be able to plug the right Department of Transportation number in right here. Oh, we are so close. So next, we just got to click this button. So I'll inspect that. type submit, name submit. It's got a name that looks great. So I'll just copy this block up here that I was finding the element and clicking it. We'll do the same thing here. Maybe I'll give myself a little space so I can see that those are sets that work together. Forgot the name already. Was it just called search? It's called, the name is submit. Now, we are used to things not being case sensitive in VBA. Quite often when we're dealing with a web page, this information will be case sensitive. So I'm just going to go ahead and match the case. So we'll run that. Element not found. Okay. Oh, this is by ID, and it's not the ID, it's the name. Let's try that again. Looks great. So we found that button, we clicked it. Now we got to find this link and click on the link. Ooh, well, we should be able to find this by, well, let's just go ahead and inspect it and see what we have to work with. So here's the href tag. Yeah, it says Duke Brothers Trucking Limited on it. Ooh. But I don't see anything about that link that's going to be easy for me to track that link down. Now, this TD tag is table data. So we can see this is a table here. It's got a row and TD defines a cell in the table. And so I might be able to click on that. Well, at least let's go ahead and get a reference to this. So one of the things that we can search for is we can find them, by class. So let me go ahead and get, I'm going to copy this. Now, I would expect, now in this case, there's only one that matches this. And I'm not sure there is anything else with this class name. So maybe I'll just do a search really quick on this page. So just Control F. I'm going to search for that. And it looks like that there are at least like 3 different tags that have that as the class. And so I'm a little bit nervous to just pick this up by its class name because it'll just give me the first one that meets that. So we're going to see something a little bit different here. So let me declare another object up here. I'm going to call it elems, E-L-E-M-S, as web elements. So that's going to be a collection of web element objects. Now I'm going to say set elems equal to bot dot get, find element. Now we can see all these find element by, find element by, find element by, but then if we go past it, there's another set that's find elements by. So I'm going to use find elements by class. If I do a find element by, it'll just find the first one that meets that criterion. But find elements by will return a collection of all the objects that meet that criterion. And so I'm going to find the elements by class, and I'm going to look for that class name. I'll go ahead and run that. So now let me look for type name of elems. The web elements, that's great. So let me print elems dot, and it should have a count property, tells me that there's 3. Now I looked at that and I'm expecting that that was the one I was after, was the first one. And since this is, I'm expecting this, I'm doing a search by Department of Transportation number, I'm really expecting it to be the first one. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the first one off of that. So let me say elems dot elems sub. Let's see, I'm trying to think of how we get to this. Yeah, elems item 1 dot click. The question here?
There's also the first.
There's a property here first. Yeah, good question. So somewhere down here, FIRST, there's something called first. I don't have any idea what that is.
It's right after before item.
There's elms dot first. Let's do elms item 1. Let's see what that does. And then we can try it with first as well. Well, let's just try it with first. Elms dot first. Dot click. It's got to click. So maybe that's it. First element. How nice. I'm going to go ahead and run that. Yeah, it looks like that clicked on it just fine. And now we're finally, after a few steps to get there, we're finally to the page that has the data that we're after. So now we got to figure out how we're going to go after this telephone. So quite often when it comes down, like when we're working with the other controls on the page, they've got names or IDs or different classes to style them. And that's often not the case for the actual data that we're after. So we've got, it's in a table, but there's going to be a lot of them that have this particular style on this cell. So I think what I'm going to do, style, is I'm probably going to go ahead and pull everything from this. I'm going to pull all the ones that have this class. So we'll do something really similar to what we did before. And then we're going to make a loop that just looks through them all to find the one that talks about the telephone number. So we've got here, we've clicked that. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this line. Is it actually the same class name? Yeah, it looks like it's the same class name. So that line will work for us as well. But we're not going to click the first one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to loop through these. We should be able to do a for each loop. For each element in elements. Debug.print. And I'm just going to print the inner HTML of that element. So ELEM dot, and then there's this property called attribute, or this method called attribute. So I want a particular attribute of that, and the attribute that I want is, let's go ahead and pull the outer HTML. That should show the whole tag. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear out my immediate window. So this then is going to get all the elements by that class. We're going to loop through those, and we're going to print the outer HTML of those elements one by one. And so here it has printed those: Department of Transportation number, address, telephone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that string right there. So if when I'm looking at the outer HTML, if it has this closing tag, telephone opening tag, I'm going to go, oh, I found the right one. That's the one I'm after. So let me go ahead and say if in string, starting at the beginning, looking at the element, the outer HTML of the element, looking for telephone, if that is greater than 0, because string will return 0 if it doesn't find it, then we found what we're after. I'm just going to move my debug print inside of that. So now when I run this, it should only print that one. We'll know that I've found the one that I'm after. Great, so now I just got to figure out how am I going to get to this? And here's where that parser is going to come in handy. Okay, so the idea behind the parser, it's kind of patterned after, do I still have Notepad open here? Open Notepad for something. So our parser is kind of patterned after what you would do to search inside of Notepad. So let's suppose I have this text in Notepad. What I'd like to do is I'd like to say, you know what? It looks like if I just were to move to, like right after it says like 98%. If I move to right there, then I'm ready to take the rest of what's here until this ampersand character. By the way, this ampersand NBSP is a non-breaking space. My guess is it's there after every single telephone number. So if I could find this and then just get the text up to this point, that would be great. And that's the kind of thing that that text parser is just wired to do. So let's just do this. Let's come here and let's, first of all, let's create a text parser. So I'm going to come back up to the top. Let me dim P as a new parser. So parser is available to me because we imported that class file. So let me say p.text is equal to that little fragment of HTML. And now I'm going to, it has a property called position that keeps track of like where it's currently found in the file. So p.position equals 1. It's going to default to 1, but because I'm just want to make sure that I'm starting at the very beginning, and then I'm going to move to that text. So p.move to. And what was I looking for? I think with 98%. And because I've got double quotes inside of this double quote terminated string, I'm going to make sure I double up those double quotes. Okay, let me go ahead and run that again. So I want to come back up here for each element elms. Elms is still defined, that's fine. And I'm going to put a stop right here now. Okay, so I'm going to come to my immediate window and now ask what my position is. So here I set the position to 1, and then I said, move that position to where it finds this. And so it has now advanced me 141 characters. And so right there at the end of what I just searched for, that is 141 characters into that little fragment of HTML. So at this point, I'm ready to extract some data out of that, of this little fragment. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess we can, well, I'll put it into a variable. I think it'll be a little more straightforward to put it into a variable. So dim, I'm going to call this phone number, or just phone as a string, as a strategy. And now that I've moved to that location, I'm going to say phone equals p.getText. And then it's going to get all the text from wherever the current position is up until the next thing that I tell it to look for. So get text up to where it says ampersand NBSP. So now, if I look at the position, it should have advanced it more, because not only does it pull the text from there, it advances the position to the end of what I just searched for, but now my phone number should actually have that data. So I've pulled that data off of the HTML here. Now I think I'm ready to just write that. I'm going to do the same thing to find the fax number, but we're just going to end the example here with the phone number. Lost my mouse pointer. Go. Okay, so I'll write that to the sheet. So my sheet is called sheet 1. Cells, row, column number. And I want that to go into column F. dot value equals phone. And of course, I mean, I just wrote that into a variable and then wrote that variable somewhere else. I could write this straight into it, but it's going to help us kind of go step at a time as we go here. Go ahead and move this over so we can see it happen. But if I run that now, we should get the phone number brought in. So it sounds like the next one is, so, and in fact, once I've done that, I'll just put a comment here, do something similar to get the fax number. And then we're done. So I'm just going to exit my new loop, exit my for loop. And I think that's it. I'll run that the rest of the way out. Now I should be able to get, like, for the fourth line. I don't know if there's actually a phone number for the fourth line, but let's go ahead and run that. Opens that and pulls in the number for the fourth line. Curious what happens if we do on number 3. Guessing that we're going to have an error somewhere. So it looks like, yeah, we clicked on submit and elements. I wonder what elements is right now. So maybe there are no elements that have that. Yeah. So we could just do this right here. If elements dot count equals 0, then no match. Just exit my sub procedure. So now if there's no match, we can either write back no match or we could just skip it, which is what we're doing now. So now it would just be run a loop that loops through and calls this by sending the row number that we're on, and it should go through one at a time, pull them all in. So that's the fundamentals of controlling Chrome with VBA. Questions? Do you get the sense that you could do some really powerful things with this? You could also do some illegal things with this quite easily. Turns out that a web, someone who owns a web server has the right to tell you not to do this. So in the last couple of minutes here, let me just kind of show you where they would tell you that. First place that you might look for that to find out if you're allowed to do this is, let's see, is like, find some terms of service. Terms of service, I don't know if there's terms of service here, but almost always when you read the terms of service as a web page, it's going to say no automated interaction is allowed with our page. They say that, but they don't mean that. They definitely expect automated interaction. If they ever want Google to be able to index them so they can be found by Google, they're expecting some automated interaction. And so the place that you really want to look is something called the robots.txt file. And it's always just at the root, right after like the .com, or in this case, the .gov/robots.txt. This is a machine readable file that gives some instructions about what's allowed here. So this is for a particular user agent. Apparently there's some user agent called Speedy. And what the site is saying, listen, Speedy, when you're here, you delay 60 seconds between each request. Same thing for MSN bot, you delay 60 seconds, and for Slurp, and for everything else. So why they have these specifically, I don't know. So what that's saying is that to be a good player in this space, we should put a delay between for the requests of 60 seconds. That's what they've asked us to do. If we violate that, are we breaking the law? The answer is yeah, you are breaking the law. you were engaging in a thing called trespass to chattel. And it's a really dubious legal idea that they did in the 1990s to try to control how people were working on the internet. Yeah, we could do a whole lecture just kind of on the legality of doing this. But the point is that a web person who owns this server is allowed to say, hey, there's some rules to play by here. If you play by those rules, you're great. If you don't play by those rules, are they going to come and arrest you in handcuffs? No. But they might tell you to cut it out. So anyway, we should obey that. So let's just quickly do something to obey this, and then that'll be the last for us here. I'm just going to go ahead and put a delay on this. So right after let's see, the exit sub, I'll do a delay like on the way in. Doesn't really matter where I do it as long as it's happening. Application.wait. Now, application.wait, you put a time that you want to wait until. So I'm going to do date add. I'm going to add a number of minutes onto now. And it's going to be 1 minute. Now, I'm not sure if M is for month or minute. So I'll do seconds. I know S is seconds. Onto my current time. And I'm going to add 60 seconds. So what that will do is we'll get to that point, our code will pause for 60 seconds, and then it will move on. So really kind of, this is unusual. I've never seen like a 60-second delay required for everyone here, but that's what the site says. So we're running overnight, and then we are working completely the way that this web server has asked us to behave. All right, questions? Yep. You know everything you know for the last project. Yeah, and if you're feeling a little bit beat up after the database project, students tell me this one is much easier than the database project. Don't wait till the last moment to do it, but a little bit easier. All right, I think that database project is due tonight. We've got some TA time happening tonight. I'll try to keep an eye on the help as well in case she gets overwhelmed. Thanks for coming. Call it good there. Class dismissed. Oh, you're too kind. What a nice crowd. Yeah, let me get this uploaded so I can get off of this student's machine. Compare. I remember my password. Oh, wonderful. They emailed me. Don't remember that. Oh, no, thank you.